Everybody. I'm Kyle Mason.
And I'm Braxton Smith.
We're going to talk about the third debate. This is our second conversation, first recorded video chatting about the debates. This is opinion-based, what we saw. And then we throw a little humor in there, too. So if Braxton, if you want to go ahead and kick it off, you're more than welcome.
All right. So first off, I did have a little trouble watching it at first. I know CNBC kind of blocked us out of it this time. Unlike their other internet providers of the debates, they usually let you watch it. But I got to catch it on YouTube anyways. Missed out on the kitty table. I didn't see much of that. Apparently, Lindsey Graham did pretty well. So if you want to comment on that later, good for you. But the one common theme, I not really.
It was hard enough to watch the main one. So.
Well, the main one, I actually think overall the candidates actually did really well, especially considering how hard CNBC was trying to trash them. They made that abundantly clear that was their single motive every moment they had. And Ted Cruz, I think, did a really good job of calling them out on it.
Yeah, he did creepishly well.
Yeah, I heard Glenn Beck talk, I don't know, for a couple of hours talking about how he's got like audiographic memory or something where he can remember everything verbatim and repeat it back. Mm-hmm. And apparently he had like the exact verbatim questions they asked about the other candidates and then nailed it in order when he called them out on that. So I was pretty impressed by that. Not so much other aspects about him, but he definitely did the best out of everyone in that debate. As much as I hate to admit it, he did do the best.
Okay.
And they actually had a review by the viewers. The viewers were asked what they thought. You know, they had a moment to vote, like yay or nay on things that are said by the candidates. And apparently, since a lot of these broadcasting channels started doing that, he actually received the highest ratings out of all the candidates, like since they started doing that. When he called them out on that. So, yeah, good on him. I was going to let you go. I didn't want to completely eat up the whole segment.
No, that was good stuff because, it goes to show that, like, when you call people out on what they're, when you call people out, people do appreciate that. Ted Cruz, he could have just kept his head down because they weren't really attacking him that much. They're really attacking other people around him. And he could have just kept his head down and say, "Oh, this is good for me," this and that. But I think the fact that he stepped up and just didn't really, he wasn't really digging the way that the conversation was going. It really helped him out. And yeah, there's been a bunch of backlash. And I wonder if anybody over at NBC screened those questions.
I think that's actually absolutely what happened because actually the RNC straight up said, like right the day after, they said that they are boycotting any more debates with any of their affiliates, with them or their affiliates with NBC. So, yeah, they pretty much goofed hard on that one. But I will say, though, one of the lower performers, though, I wanted to call that out before I forget. Jeb Bush. Do you ever have that moment, like, where you're like, about something really well? Say, like, I don't know, like for me, cars, I'm decent with cars. Let's say cars. I'm talking with some guys about cars, and we're having this deep intellectual conversation, subject matter experts.
Yeah.
And then you have that one guy in the group that just, like, chimes in, like, yeah, I just put in some new exhaust tips on my car, increased horsepower, but that was basically what he sounded like. He's like that awkward guy in the group. You're just like, please go away.
You're not really adding anything. In fact, we're all dumber.
Yeah, like how out of touch was he when he was like, everybody's like, here we are on this death spiral, and it's abundantly clear. But the way the economy is going, the way our debt is going, the fact that we're trying to start what it looks like we're starting another world war here, that's up to debate, I suppose. But I mean, everybody can feel it, that there's something crazy happening. And then he's like this one shining beacon out of the group saying, "No, we're on the uprise. We're about to see the greatest time they ever was." And I don't know, I wasn't buying it. I don't think anybody else is buying it. He seemed completely out of touch. And it's like you said, he had absolutely nothing to add, and
Yeah.
we were all dumber because of his presence.
Yeah, I don't know about pending apocalypse, but I mean, there's definitely a proxy war that's already happened. It's already developed. We're pretty much just throwing guns out of the back of a. Anyways, I'm not gonna go down that road. I'm not gonna start this. But yes,
Like a
you're right.
Toyota Tacoma.
Yeah. So I thought
Well,
I thought overall which was really surprising because the Republican debate has been known, and the Republican candidates have been known to tear into each other really
yeah,
hard, and there's so many of them up there on stage that it kind of has to be. But one thing I noticed about these debates compared to, let's say, the Mitt Romney Obama debates, and even before that with McCain, is that these candidates have their big things are like they're talking about taxes. The big thing is, Mitt Romney never he never really put out a really detailed tax plan. He was just kind of like beat around the bush because it wasn't a sexy thing to talk about at the time. Because it
right.
was like, you had the financial, you still had the economy was still recovering. It just wasn't something that was sexy. Everyone up on that stage had a detailed tax plan. I think this is why, because someone decided to step up and make a detailed plan and put it out there. And then, all the other candidates, they're not, well, I'm not just going to stand up on stage and be like, no, 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 vote for me, and then you'll figure it out what it is. They started to all like, because before there wasn't anyone that was straightforward enough to put out a plan that was at least legitimate to, get in there. But now it's like everyone has a tax, which I really dig because I like when they put out these plans, and I don't know how they come up with these figures. I don't know. So it's like hard for me to even say, oh, that's not right or whatever. But it's just interesting to see them put out these plans to these colleges and these foundations, and they run the numbers and they have them fact checked and all this stuff like that. I don't know. It's just now whether those plans get through, probably not. They'll probably get chopped and screwed,
Yeah.
before they pass. But I don't know. It's interesting, and I really like to see that. I don't know. I really like to see that they were talking about them in detail. It just gets to the gut of issues. Is what I'm trying to. I like when they talk about the gut of the issues.
And you know what else is really awesome about that is it's like specific sound bites. Rather than saying something like, hey, let's make America great again, something that broad where it's like he can take it in any direction he wants to, and then say later on when somebody holds, well, why isn't America great again? Well, this is what I thought was going to make America great again, and it didn't pan out. You can't really hold them accountable. But when they get more specific and they unfold this plan, and then they don't even come close to attempting it, that's a soundbite you can hold them to later on down the road.
Yeah.
It's about accountability.
Yeah, I think that it is when you set out a set of goals, or whatever point, 5-point, 90-point plan, and then you only achieve a couple points. Yeah, you can really put people, and that's why bosses do that. Not many politicians want to commit so hard to things because they always leave themselves an out, and usually it's someone else's fault. But yeah, I do think so. I think that's good. So besides the poll numbers, Ted Cruz, how do you think? I'm a little bit biased, but let's talk about Rand Paul for a minute.
Yeah, since the media won't. I mean, he was blacked out in the debate. We even saw I saw right off the bat in the polls who do you think is going to win? He was actually dominating with 40-something% at first, and then later on somehow Trump came back and Carson was up there, and then at the end of it, still he had I think 8 minutes they said out of 2 hours.
Yeah, it
so
wasn't
definitely trying to black him out, and he still came in third, tied with Cruz for who won the debate. So we're not alone. There's definitely a following on old Rand Paul. Obviously, he didn't do too hot tonight, but I mean, what are you going to do with 8 minutes? Really, the way he works too. He's just like his old man Ron Paul. You can't you can't make a logical stance in a 30-second to 60-second soundbite. Like, you need time to roll it out and really explain to the people how something works.
Yeah,
it's easy to say, let's make America great again, but it takes a little more than 60 seconds to explain how you're going to do it.
Yeah, and you never really hear him. I mean, I'm sure he said it before, but he's never really, like, you know, when they ask him a question, like, he's like, well, I'm a conservative, and I'm going to get things done. Like, well, what does that mean? Like, thank you. No, sir, answer the question. Thank you. No, yeah, he.
All right, well, you're out of time.
Yeah, he's really methodical about what he has to say. And one thing I did notice last night, or on the debate, is that I feel that he, for instance, the ending speech is what really was like, okay, I get it, I get this now. He didn't even make a, like, you know how they all had these really big speeches planned out, like, you know, vote for me for president.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Chris Christie was like asked like 18 questions, and he's like, if you agree with any of those, vote for me. So, but Rand Paul was like, he made the issue about the debt ceiling, how he's going to filibuster tomorrow.
Yeah.
He didn't say,
that was good. It was definitely
I'm going to be a good president, blah, blah, blah. He's like, look, this is the issue, and this is what's most pressing right now. You know, I kind of took it as two ways. I took it as, one, he's still about the policy and about the meat, but two, this is just my thought, that when he said that, I was like, is he running for president, or is he just getting airtime to get the message out, just like his dad? You know, his father was running for president, but really he was trying to get the message of libertarianism out, of freedom out, and that's what he did. He got a lot of airtime. Did he ever really think that he could win presidency? You know, which he had a really good shot, but he was totally walled out. But that's just what I thought when his final statement wasn't about him being president. It was about his filibuster the next day. What do you think?
Yeah, I was actually more caught up on his opening thing, but I'll get to that in a minute. That's really interesting you say that, though, about, is he running to spread a message, or is he running to be president?
Right.
And I think his father was definitely running to spread a message. You don't say that, yeah, I'm for legalizing heroin because of the principle of it. It doesn't mean I'm for it. I'm just for the principle of legalizing everything, because you try to make something illegal. You know, I could get all into the details of that, but what I'm getting at is Ron Paul is spreading a message, and he actually did have a chance at presidency that the GOP swiped away from him. And Rand Paul right now, though, if you remember, a lot of people hate him for this, but he voted in favor of Mitch McConnell. I can't remember specifically what it was on, but I do remember it was something of minor detail. Everybody hates Mitch McConnell, but I do remember specifically that it was like something so minuscule, but I think it was kind of his way to get into the Republican Party. And if you notice, time and again, he's trying to prove his loyalty, I guess you will, to the party, because he's constantly saying, you know, this is what you can expect of Republicans. And, you know, he's kind of playing into the whole Republican thing. But if you look at his voting record, time and again, even where Ted Cruz, everybody says Ted Cruz is a constitutionalist. Where was he when Rand Paul was filibustering the NSA? When he was filibustering the extension of the Patriot Act, Ted Cruz is over there with the yes button. He voted in favor of that, whereas Rand Paul was up there for, what was it, 18 hours? 12 to 18 hours filibustering this. So you got to pay close attention to what his voting record is. Unfortunately, I think the GOP, the powers that be, caught on to it before we did, and that's why he's being blacked out again, because he went from being all over the news to now all of a sudden he's hush-hush. He's kept off the polls. He's kept out of polls. Fox News had a poll recently, had every candidate but him, and guess who won? None and other. So, food for thought.
Yeah, we had a conversation. Yeah, I remember that. That was a good conversation, because, man, that's really sad. You know, that they feel they have so much commitment to this party that they block out people that they don't like, and they have so much power because they own the airwaves that and people just take their word for it, and that's why you get the question: is Rand Paul even running anymore? And it's like, yeah, he's still running. He's got, he's still on the campaign trail. He fills up everywhere he goes. It's
not to mention, let me interject real quick. Not to mention, for some reason, for the first time ever, nobody's talking about the straw polls. Straw polls used to be huge. And right now, I guess it might be because Rand Paul's in the lead. He's won 12 major straw polls right now. Ben Carson, 10. I want to say Carly Fiorina is with 8. Some other person's with 8. Donald Trump's irrelevant. Jeb Bush is irrelevant. There's like all the other candidates are pretty much like off, like not even competitive in that aspect. But we don't hear about straw polls. We hear about these. All of a sudden now the internet polls are where it's at. And I would wager, going to the conspiracy area here, but I would wager that the mainstream media is manipulating some of these polls. It's not outside. In fact, actually, that's not even going into conspiracy there, because Fox News was called out on it, and it was actually factual that they were manipulating the numbers on it. And so they said, oh, our bad. They re-released a poll. Rand Paul ended up getting like 40-something% on that one.
Right.
So,
well,
saw it, Ron Paul, and now we're seeing it again with Rand Paul.
Yeah.
Who's the real outsider? Who's really anti-establishment?
It's true. Even if they're not sitting there like typing in numbers and stuff, you can still tell their bias just by that straw poll that we just got done talking about last week, where they were like, this is not the outcome we want. Let's just take it down. Now, it is their website. I'm not trying to say that they can't do that, but it just goes to show that they do have a bias. And if it's not what they want, if it's not what they're trying to sell, the image that they're trying to sell, it ain't going. So that's not just with Fox News. MSNBC will do the same thing. Pretty much any of the NBCs. I mean, you saw CNBC last night, or for the debate. It was a really low showing of what the debates are trying to become, or what the media wants the debates to become, because they want it to be a ring match with people giving each other really funny one-liners, and then that way they can report on how rude the candidates are to each other. Well, that really turned around on them when the candidates didn't walk into their trap, and they started calling them out. And in fact, you saw the moderators. They got really red in the neck and in the face, and
yeah,
embarrassed. You said, "Okay, oh, well, you're not going to answer the question. Okay, next." Like trying to push along the conversation when they were just getting called out like no other.
Yeah.
The one guy all the way to the far left, I thought he was about to cry when he started getting called out by Ted Cruz.
That was John Kasich. Isn't that his name? I don't even know who he is, honestly.
I'm not sure, but all I know is that he was red in the face, and his eyes really did water up because he was so embarrassed. And I think maybe he was put up to it, maybe not, but yeah, it was evidently clear. It's that moment when in front of all your coworkers you say something really rude and really stupid, and it's just like awkward silence, but. There wasn't even awkward silence. The whole crowd just started like cheering what Ted Cruz is saying. Like, yeah, that is fucked up.
Boo! We don't like John Kasich. Boo! Yeah, he and I gotta say, the only thing I really heard about him talk about last night, he was going all Donald Trump on it. He was saying basically, me. Look at my history. Look at Ohio. I swear to God, everything he was asked tied back into what he did in Ohio. And right now I'm not hearing anything too amazing. No offense to Ohio. Not hearing anything amazing out of Ohio right now. And really, in all reality, every time he was like asked a question, he somehow kind of deflected it, and he was just like, well, look how I did in Ohio. And it's like, well, explain to us what you did in Ohio. Explain to us what you're going, like, what are your plans now? Did you learn anything? Are you going to do something new? It's just, oh, well, in Ohio, he's just like basically trying to validate himself, trying to make himself seem legit.
You know, he did do really good on college education when he's like, well, how are you going to lower the cost? So he did get into the nuts and bolts about what colleges spend on and how that they turn themselves into a business, and that like, you know, the parking garage thing. Anyways, that makes the college money, but what it does is the college uses tuition to get more money to invest more money. So they, you know, they're trying to cycle like a machine when he was just pointing out like, hey, look, the college shouldn't be in those kind of fields, you know. And I like what he said about having almost like what they do in Europe. A lot of European countries, there are only 3 years of college. Here's a
Right.
4-year degree. It's because they do a lot of those classes, those first year, in high school. You get credit for it in high school. Now it's just part of their curriculum, but here we could do the thing. We could do, you know, you can offer advanced program classes or AP classes or whatever they call them in different states. They're at a college level given through the high school, you know, so you don't take senior English anymore. You take AP English, and then it's credited. So by the time that you're in college, you already have your first year of credits knocked out. You know, they already offer small programs like that here and there, but it's just a really great way. You're talking about potentially just through that program right there, replacing your final years of high school with college credited class. You're talking about one-fourth the cost right there, right off the top. One-fourth the cost potentially. One less
Right.
year in high school or sitting in college. Now you're back in the workforce faster. You don't have to pay for the housing, and just, you know, you just go down the list. The high school is probably closer to your college, so now transportation is cheaper for, you know, one-fourth the cost. Anyways, that's the things he's talking about. But yeah, the first question, it wasn't 1.5 minutes into the debate, I almost shut my computer off. I did, man. I was like, I'm only gonna listen to this at this point because I want to have this video chat. Because they go, what's one weakness? And then
Yeah.
he goes, great question. That's a great question. And then he just starts talking about Ohio and himself. And I'm like, oh, man.
Oh, dude. You know what I thought was funny too? That basically set a precedence for the whole damn thing, really. I mean, to ask that as a number one question, first off, think about asking that question. If everyone answers that, is there really any way that they can answer it in such a manner that you learn something new about a candidate where you're like, you know what, I'm going to vote for that guy? I mean, it does absolutely nothing.
No, it's not.
The means, if anything, because it's an awkward question.
It is. And it just said, yeah, it did set it up like they just came out of the gate like starting off by no one in a job interview sits down, like shakes your hand, like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. What's one weakness about yourself? Like, what? Wait, hold on. Like no one does that. That's like in the middle of the First of all, most employers don't even ask that. What's one weakness about yourself? But it just, I don't know. It's like that's not the first question they ask you. If this is the first question you ask, then you need to reconsider: is this the job you want? You want to work for this guy because he's always going to come out of the gate swinging at you. You know? Like, hey man, like one of my weaknesses is I'm too honest, and that's a very dumb question to start off a conversation with.
Oh, dude, that would have been an epic response. Actually, again,
but they can't.
We do have our bias here, but I was kind of digging how Rand Paul handled it. I don't know if anybody really noticed it. He was really subtle with how he did it, because it slowly was like changing, and by the time it got to him, the question became, "Who are you and what's your platform?"
No, that's what it was. That's what they heard anyway. They go, "Oh, what, you want to hear about me and my platform? Sweet, that's a good question. Thank you, great question." Yeah,
so by the time we got to him, that's how he answered it, and I particularly loved it. Like, out of all the times that they could have called a candidate on somebody, that was the most validated, and it went over their head. So I almost died laughing, personally. But
That was
um,
pretty good stuff.
I was going to say overall, though, I noticed with that whole debate, though, I mean, overall, Jeb Bush and John Kasich aside, I mean, even Chris Christie was doing really good. Two other clowns, obviously, they sucked, but and I don't think anybody would ever argue that. But even Chris Christie, I mean, the slime ball he is, like, he actually did really good that night. He had probably one of the best zingers. That's the one I wanted to talk about. They were asking Jeb Bush about fantasy football.
Yep. Yep.
Did you want to go into that?
Well, no, you know what? You go ahead and make your point, and then I just have a follow-up to it.
I thought he nailed it. You know, I mean, I can't believe, you know, just like he said, we're having a presidential debate. We have, you know, this problem over in the Middle East where we're about to go to war with Russia because we're fighting a proxy war with them through ISIS. All this complicated stuff going on there. Over in the Pacific, we're about to throw down with China and their artificial islands and all the proximities going on there. We got an economy that's contrary to popular belief is faltering right now. We can't even get our interest rates above 0%. And unemployment's, contrary to popular belief, again, is going up. So you got all these people, millions of people in America without jobs. We're trying to talk about the economy, and now you're trying to get into fantasy football. And there's just absolutely they were basically trying to turn it into a clown show. Is how and I'm glad somebody called out on it. I hate it was Chris Christie, but damn, he did a good job on that. But that's all I had to say about that. I can't believe Jeb Bush even honored that with a straight answer.
Well,
again, how out of touch.
Again, it was a dumb question. I think the point that they were trying to make, and again, these are professional journalists and broadcasters, right? They've been around. Okay, these aren't high school newspaper article writers or anything. Okay, they asked a question because they were trying to get at the fact that they were trying to make him look like a hypocrite. Is what was trying to happen. They were trying to say, so you're saying that people can't gamble, yet you do it yourself through football, right?
Oh, okay.
And so they brought it up, trying to make him look like a hypocrite, right?
Yeah.
Once again, the question sucks so bad that it just anybody could open up the door. It just opened up the door for Chris Christie to come right across him with the left hand and be like, that is what you're going to ask him about? That's what you're going to ask us about? That's what the American people want to hear about? I don't think so. And then once again, they just sunk a little bit lower in their seat. Their ratings are going to drop a little bit more. It's just you know, and that was a total money bomb for CNBC. That is the most viewers they have ever had. That right?
Yeah, I believe
ever.
It.
Okay, ever. And they decided to make it. So many people never watched CNBC before, and those are people from CNBC, and they decided to come out and ask dumb questions, loaded questions, and they just weren't having it. And I really like the fact that, I think Christie looked over at Jeb Bush and realized what was going on, and you could see that Jeb was kind of struggling. You know, he started off with a joke. That's the first sign of someone.
I did see that. I picked up on that.
Yeah, he was like, he just started rambling about his team and his lineup, trying to nonchalantly, hey, it's no big deal, don't worry about it. And I think that Christie, you know, he was making a good point, why are we talking about this? But I also think that he's like, no, I'm not going to let these people do this. You know, they had a common enemy. You know, they had a common enemy. It was those people, and he's like, I'm not going to let them sit there and. Jeb Bush believes that people shouldn't gamble. Well, fine, let's talk about that, but don't give him a loaded question, you know. And it's just, yeah. I think Chris Christie did a really good job on that.
Yeah, he did.
Really bad questioning.
Yeah, something else I was going to comment on though is with Republicans, just period, usually they actually do a pretty good job in any debate, any kind of questioning format on economics. Usually most people are going to agree with their economic policies. Where people disagree with them would be more on social issues. So for the most part, across the board, all the way through, I don't think people would argue too much with everything that was said. Like I said, I have nothing bad to say other than Jeb Bush being a floating piece of driftwood and John Kasich just being annoying.
Yeah, this.
But what I did notice, though, is they were a little more libertarian than they usually are. It's almost like they ripped the page right out of old Ron Paul's playbook. They looked back and said, you know, one thing everyone overwhelmingly supported from his policies was his economics. There was no debating that because he's done more research than most candidates. I'd say that was definitely his strong point. And I think that took a lot of wind out of Rand's sail, actually, was the fact that most of them were preaching what he's already been saying, talking about free market. And I mean, that's pretty much a GOP thing there. I thought he was actually going to shine. I thought that was going to be where he was going to really pull through. But again, it was just the questions didn't provide enough time to really unfold a powerful answer that nobody else could provide like he could. And then the fact that the 8 minutes they gave him would be just enough for him to answer one, maybe two questions solid. So,
right. They so you got, and he was doing with that message really good for a while, but I think that other people have caught on that maybe this is just my bias and you know, me believing in that I think they're trying to realize that people do feel that. You know, they do feel like, hey, we need less government, because every time we decide to let the government handle something, it becomes a disaster, and it becomes interest of other people and not the people that are trying to be helped. And I think that they just caught on. And plus, it's the Republican national debate, right? So everybody on that stage goes a little to the right than what they really believe, because they're trying to pick up more voters, right? It becomes a race to the right. Now, when we finally get to the debate between Republican and Democrat, everyone starts sliding towards the middle. You know, so up on the stage, let's say whoever gets it up on stage, they're going to be way right today than they will be when they're debating a Democrat. And we'll see the change. You'll see the change. I mean, it happens all the time. It happens every time. You're going to see the change. You know, Ben Bernanke's going to slide a little bit if he gets up there. Hillary Clinton.
Bernie Sanders? Talking about Bernie Sanders? You keep saying Ben Bernanke.
I keep saying that. I keep reading about I keep reading about his statements about things he wish he could have done and things that we're doing wrong. I don't know. It's completely ridiculous. But anyways. Yeah, so I think that's one reason why most people were talking about that, because they're trying to slide to the right, and you know, it's to the right, I guess, on a weird scale is more libertarian. But so that,
I saw a little bit of that with Donald Trump. You know, I've noticed like he's been enforcing policies. For example, like, you know, he's all of a sudden he's like this huge pro-guns advocate. And but you look at all his business establishments; they're all anti-gun, no gun zones, gun-free zones. That's what they call them. So they're all gun-free zones. And you know, I'm telling a lot of these people on the NRA page, I sometimes wonder about those guys, because you know they're all like Trump 2016, and I'm like, you know, when he enacts eminent domain and takes your property from you, he's going to turn it into a gun-free zone. Did you know that? And it just befuddles them. Anyways, that's a good example, like you said, of some of the candidates. He really should be in a Democratic debate. I mean, his policies are so Democratic, but yeah, I can see it now. They have to appeal to, like you said, the more right wing, which I guess is extreme right wing would be libertarian. So you move more towards that. Pretty complex.
So they were saying that they called up a lot of his properties and seeing if that they could carry guns on them, and they said a lot of them were gun-free zones, right? And then he says that he carries a gun around New York City. I don't believe that he probably has a permit, maybe, but I doubt if he carries a gun. But anyways, do you think, and this is just speculation, do you think that he'll change his policies on his properties for the time being?
I don't really think so. I think what it is, and what it is with a lot of candidates, is they give the answers that the people want to hear and assume that they'll never be called out on it. And even if they do, they'll end up picking up more voters with the initial response than they'll lose when that initial response gets called out.
Right, because there's not 14 million people looking up facts after the debate, and that was one thing that also really frustrated me was the moderators were we did our fact checking and that's not true. You know, they were trying to call out Mark Rubio on his tax plan. Well, after the debate, the guy finally came out on Twitter and said, a couple days later when they were going back and forth, hashtagging each other, whatever you do on Twitter, about the facts, the guy finally came out and said, corrected, I was wrong about Mark Rubio's tax plan. It does reflect what he said, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's great that you decided to come out and admit that you were wrong in front of, everyone that you work with, and a lot of people that follow Mark Rubio on Twitter. But there's not 14 million people that sat there and watched that, and you called him out and made him look like a liar. That's what you did. You said he was lying about his numbers. He was fibbing the numbers. They're not. You've already ruined it.
Yeah.
Dishonest journalism. Okay, you're gonna stand up. You're gonna sit down in front of 14 million people and put out wrong facts. And then when he calls you out on it, you go, "Oh no, I didn't. No, I didn't." And they got into this real heated back and forth about the numbers things. I thought Marco Rubio handled it really well when he was like, "Look, 5% of a million is much more than 5% of 1,000." And then, but it's already ruined.
Same thing to Ben Carson.
Look like a clown. It's irreversible.
Right. Because I got to tell you, man,
They did it on several different occasions.
Right. Yeah, and every time I saw it, man, I started thinking a little bit less of those candidates and their policies. And then as the night went on, I started thinking, like, I got to be honest, it's kind of embarrassing, but I actually believed the moderators at first. I'm like, well, dang, they must have done their homework. They did all the research, and then I see them do it time and again, and I'm starting to wonder. I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm gonna have to research it myself. But I do a lot of critical thinking. I question a lot of things, but not everybody does. Some people, don't have as much free time to do stuff like that as I do, and they just got to take it for what it's worth. And like you said, that doubt's forever put into my own memory and the memories of everybody else. So no matter what is said afterwards, there's still going to be that doubt that's just kind of embedded there. So, yeah, they were definitely defamed and very immoral. CNBC will never be taken seriously again. Not for a while anyways. Not until maybe next election, I guess.
I used to really enjoy watching CNBC, Money Talks and Fast Money and Jim Cramer. I thought, I don't know. I used to watch those all the time. I haven't really watched them lately because I've just been strictly on the internet. I still go to the website, but
did you ever see where Jon Stewart tore into Jim Cramer?
Oh yeah, when he's like, man, I wish there was someone that could be recorded. Yeah, and he's like,
publicly emasculated that guy. Like, that guy was groveling at Jon Stewart's feet. I don't even know. Like, I'm surprised. I thought he got fired actually after that. Because my face was red watching that. I was embarrassed for him.
Yeah, he was like, this is gonna be the best deal. They're gonna make money hand over fist, and then they were.
Well, good luck everybody else.
Yeah. That was pretty funny. I seriously enjoyed it.
I don't know, man. That's about all I got for the debate.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't much. I want to see. So you have how many candidates were up there? 10, but no, 9.
It's like between 8 and 10, yeah.
Okay, so the airtime gets cut up a lot, and then you have all the rambling and random talking, but between the questions and stuff, like, wait, I want to respond. When is it gonna start getting dwindled down here? It's like, but I really don't want to push it too much because then it's like, because the first people who they're gonna cut, Rand Paul's gonna be there because he's been on the end every time.
Through their alleged polls, yeah. And those come into question. I don't know why they aren't looking at the straw polls. Why did all of a sudden we start looking at internet polls and putting priority on them over straw polls, which are much more legitimate?
I'm not.
Maybe we've always done that. It just seems like it kind of came out of nowhere because I don't know. It's pretty sketchy to me. But I mean, in all reality, candidates I would pull right out the gate. As I said before, Jeb Bush, he was way up here. Now he's way down here. He has the most funding out of everybody, and he fell the furthest. And let's face it, he's never coming back. I feel sorry for the guy. I think he's a good person, but I don't even think he wants to do this anymore, really. Looking at him up there, he looks like a beaten dog. John Kasich, he's annoying. He's like the new Rick Santorum. He's annoying. Nobody knows who he is. Every time I ever hear anything from him, I'm just like, please go away.
Yeah, he's not entertaining either. You know, the funniest thing I ever heard him say was about that fantasy football. That's the funniest thing I've heard him say. And
I
quite
didn't
frankly,
hear him say anything
in
about
politics,
that.
you have to be a little entertaining. You know, you gotta make people laugh. You can't just be like a college professor lecturing people. People don't dig that, man.
Right. Well, I mean that, and like he doesn't offer anything. He's basically like a boring establishment candidate. He's like Jeb Bush without the name, and much more annoying.
He looks like it too. Yeah, I mean he looks like an establishment, just like God. You know, like what the fuck. But one last thing I have to say about the tax plan and all the numbers that were getting thrown out. They're like, oh well, that's gonna only leave you with $1.5 trillion, whatever, way below the market with the revenue now. They're like, what are you going to do about that shortfall? You know, we're not going to be able to run the government like we do if we have such a shortfall. And then, like, in my head, I'm going, like, ding, ding, ding. Like, that is the point. That is the exact point that they're trying to make. Every time have you been listening to what any of these people say? They want less revenue for the government because they don't want as big of a government because well, anyways, they say they plan on cutting down the size of government. You know, it's like, well, what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to run it like, well, yeah, no, I'm not going to run it like people have been running it the past 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 years. Like, it's going to change. Or, that's what they say anyway, but they just totally miss the mark. Right. Every time they talk about that stuff, it's like, yeah, I don't want to make that much revenue because that means I have to tax X amount of people. And then I have this revenue. Like, yeah, we could pay off the debt, but there ain't no way that they're going to take a huge portion of their revenue, cut a bunch of stuff, take a huge portion of the revenue, the same tax rate, and then go pay off debt. They're not going to do that. That's called austerity, and it, quite frankly, it doesn't. It does suck for everyone. It does. It really does suck for everyone, and that's not sexy, and they're not going to say that.
Yeah. But that's really, in all reality, I think what needs to be done and something we need to look at. Like, my overall message would be that especially they kept pushing. Now that I think about it, I do have a couple cents to put in: Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. I know that at this point in my life, I will never be able to collect any of my Social Security. And what I would like to have happen is, you go ahead and keep every dime that I put in there. I will never ask for a dime of it back. Just don't make me pay any more of it. Medicare and Medicaid, if I were to have that money back in my own pocket to set aside to put either into private insurance or just have set aside as cash for an emergency, I'd be so much better off. But what I'm totally okay for is, yes, we've been screwed by the past few generations with this huge debt. Maybe not even past few, just the last generation, really. We got screwed with this debt. Can we just please be the ones that actually do something about it? Because otherwise, if we act just like the last generation and we keep generating all this debt, we're just going to end up dumping it off on our children. So times are going to get rough, and no, it isn't sexy to talk about austerity and things as such, but it's like, we got to get real. I mean, we have a problem that we actually have to address. Got to leave this land of sunshine and lollipops that Bernie Sanders is painting for us and face reality that we're going to have to miss out on luxuries. Somebody's going to have to bear this weight. Do you really want to dump it off on the children, our future generations? Or are we going to be the ones that actually fix things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not gonna go down the road of how much of a scam everything is. I mean, or how much. I mean, it's just all. There's three giant Ponzi schemes, but
Right.
yeah, you're just taking money from one person and inflating it as it's transferred, and then giving it to someone else, and then you're also regulating the healthcare market, and then talk about how it's failed because there wasn't enough regulation. But yeah, it's pretty sad about all that. I don't know if any of these people can do anything about it, but every time that Social Security is brought up, Mark Rubio really hit it on the head. He says, look, they're going to demagogue this conversation. I'm going to say this right now. We're not talking about recipients of Social Security right now. We're talking about recipients of Social Security that are 35, 40 years old, 30 years old. All the bills that have been put forward have never once been about Social Security's right now. They've been 50 years and under. So
Right.
it's just like and they demagogue it, and people are like, well, my parents are on Social Security. Okay, well, so are mine, but they're talking about me. They're talking about my boss. They're people that have 15, 20, 25 years. If you can't plan 25 years down the road, I mean, most people don't have 5-year plans, but 25 years, like, I mean, you got to try to fuck it up.
Right.
Like,
that,
it's not
like
that
I said,
hard.
private insurance. Just give us the freedom to choose our own private insurance, because the thing is with Social Security is it's become just another tax, just another reason to pull more money from us. I look at my paycheck every year, and just through my paycheck, the taxes I see on my paycheck alone, I'm paying, and I get exempted from a lot of it.
Yeah.
The whole military thing is pretty nice, but I get exempted from a lot of it, and I still see a third of my pay go. And I know a lot of people out there that own property, that trade stock, do things of that nature, get taxed way harder, probably get penalized on the healthcare thing, and then you got to pay sales tax again. That's another tax that gets thrown in. Any death tax. There's so many taxes. By the time all said and done, you're paying like well over half of your pay that you accumulate in your life goes into taxes. I'm just thinking about what I could do with twice the money I'm making now.
Yeah. So that's what we got for the debate. I think our next video we'll try to pick something like a really good article or something, and talk about it. Break it down as best as we can for our level of understanding and knowledge. But I think I'm gonna wrap it up.
All right. Yeah. Sounds good to me. Yeah, just obviously, if you are watching by chance, just leave comments. We'd love to debate. If you have any questions, let us know how we can do better. Let us know what we could have included. Yeah, we're up for debate. Hope to hear from a lot of you soon. Hope y'all come back.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks.